Right page up. You outside and run.
I did a wastewater tour today.
Yeah.
It's bad, but not much better inside.
Okay.
So I did outside.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, it is 3:30 on July 16th. I'll call this meeting of the Committee on Public Safety to order. Let the record reflect the Councilmember Martinez has an excused absence. On that, the full committee is present. We need a motion to approve the minutes from July 8th, 2026.
So moved.
Proper motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item is public comment agenda items, but you folks are here for the Make Safe, so we will. You here for the Make Safe?
With Crystal.
We are. Okay, great. Then we will move on to the action item as it's presented. So the next item on our agenda is a Make Safe demolish order for 4507 Devonshire Avenue. We've heard this 2 weeks ago.
Last week.
1 week ago. 1 week ago. That's right. Sorry about that. And I will ask the department for an update.
Sure. I know that the property owner is present and has emailed a variety of documents starting at last Friday. I know you've got copies of that. I'll speak to my version of it and then certainly hear from the property owner, but they have signed a contract to do exterior and interior clean out. That was an $8,000 proposal. They have paid the $4,000 deposit to start that work. We received proof of that yesterday, and the homeowner has also submitted to the department and council proof that they have the remaining funds to pay the full bill. We talked on the phone yesterday about that is a great first step in the department's opinion, but what is still needed is a list of the repairs needing to be made in the home to make it safe. They had explained that to get to that ability, they need to have the property cleaned out so that a builder or contractor of their choice could get in there safely to give an estimate. We would need the estimate, the list of repairs with a cost estimate, and then proof to cover that, whether that's the owner themselves or they have shared, I believe, a letter with all of us that they have an interested buyer. And so if the buyer is going to do that same list, that would be the only additional items the department would need to give you a formal recommendation to give more time. And so knowing that though they've put the $4,000 down out of the $8,000 total interior clean out, the department is excited of the progress in the last 3 or 4 days and would offer a 2-week tabling, or if that's when your next committee is, to see if we can't get a list of the building requirements, the costs, and proof of funds at that effort.
Ms. Collins, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes. I would like it noted that I accomplished most of this within 72 hours of our last meeting. So I am cognizant of the time in this. I recognize that it all started 9 years ago, but I was not aware, and I want it recognized that now that I am aware, I'm trying to take appropriate steps to meet the needs of the city. My interest is selling this property and letting the buyer be the one who is then responsible for the repairs. And I have had several people express an interest in buying the property as is. And I'm not sure what kind of criteria the city requires, or what kind of timeline or list of a checklist of needs that need to be met in order to allow that to happen. I've asked for that on a couple of occasions, some kind of a schedule or timeline or checklist, and not had any kind of direction. So I would greatly appreciate some input as to some scope in that direction. The people who have expressed an interest have all indicated that the sale could be accomplished in a very timely manner.
Just sitting to Ms. Collins, we did talk about the list requirement and explain that that is an item that the department and the city does not provide for liability reasons. And so we would encourage contacting a general contractor or a handyman, somebody who's trained in that profession. Our job, noting that we are licensed state inspectors and so forth, is to inspect and approve to the bare minimum standards of state code. And so we're not legally allowed to direct owners in what to do, because you can build a house 10 different ways.
Where do I find state code so that I can find out what needs to be met?
I would, again, I think a professional contractor would be who I would reach out to. The Greater Lansing Home Builders Association is a great resource for licensed builders and other trade professionals.
So am I hearing that I can't sell the property until it's been inspected?
Yep.
No, you could sell the property right now. That is your choice. What is up for discussion with this body is the make safe or demo order. The red tag won't be removed, whether by you or if you sell it to somebody, until the entire home is made safe. And that would require a builder to come in and pull those necessary permits and develop a scope of work to make the home safe.
So Ms. Collins, well, we've had this situation somewhat in the past where a homeowner has been red tagged and they have a potential buyer. The buyer was reticent to buy the home while it was going through the make safe or demolish process because they were going to buy something that might ended up being torn down by the city. However, what they were able to do was, while they were working out a deal to buy it, they developed a plan to renovate and all that type of stuff. So then when it came back to us, they were demonstrating progress toward getting that safe. And I believe they've sold the home to the new buyer and they've started construction. We are holding that make safe order or the demolish order until we have more updates from the contractor. But you are not prohibited from selling it. But a contractor that would be interested in buying it right now would have to know that there's a timeline that they have to adhere to. And Mr. Van Fossen's department is usually very flexible about if you can demonstrate progress, if you've got the permits pulled, if you're starting work, those types of things in the proper orders. Don't quote me on all the order, but if you're doing the things that demonstrate progress towards making the home safe, we are going to keep recommending delaying issuing the order to demolish it. The next steps today, if we do not delay, is we will go to the city council on the 27th. And then that will be the full council will vote on moving that forward with a make safe or demolish order. And that will be another 60 days, Raleigh? Correct. Another 60 days before we issue the order to demolish it. And then after that, there's some time where we bid it out and it takes some time to tear it down. But in that process, you certainly can bring a contractor in to tell you what it's going to cost, what needs to be done to make it safe. You can work with a realtor or with a potential buyer to sell it. You can do both of those things at the same time. What we have before us right now is evaluating whether we move the order to demolish, make safe or demolish, to the full city council for Monday night. So now, is there anything else you'd like to add? I think it's anything else.
This is my friend Tim. He's trying to help me make sure I understand everything appropriately.
Let me,
Can I, because we're on tape and stuff, can I get your name for the record?
Tim Rumler, Rumler.
Thank you.
So let me shed some light here to folks, kind of what I do. And I think, especially Mr. Van Fossen, it'll help his department as well. So I'm a retired school teacher, state of Michigan, 30 years in the classroom. I'm going to streamline this here. Going into retirement, I thought I was going to become an agent. However, I'm also an investor as well, real estate investor. I got out of working for a broker, getting to know a number of investors here in town. And that's my point here. I work with probably 10 or 15 of your best, truly your best cash buyers here in town who can close in 10 or 15 days. I simply this, guys, I drive around, I look for distressed houses. I came across Crystal's house, as she knows, last fall. I throw my dog in the car, I go for a ride, and I write down addresses and I backtrack them. And then I reach out to the owners, and then what I do is find a buyer for them. With that being said, I came across Crystal's property last fall. I built a rapport with her through the winter. She recently, because everything's kind of coming to a head, she reached out to me, made me aware of the situation, asked if I would come here today. I always told her, as she knows, I have no guarantees. There's no guarantees in life, but I told her that I could potentially find her a buyer at the price point that she wants in the current state of the home. Simply that. And I would be able to do that, probably 95% assurance that I would be able to do that at a price point that would meet her needs, and also the buyers, the investors. I have 2 or 3 right now that are ready to go based on its current condition. And they're ready to rehab the home and step up, and they can provide Mr. Van Fossen a detailed, if he wants it, a detailed plan of what they're going to do, how they're going to bring it up, and if not, meet the current status, if not exceed the properties in the neighborhood. My buyers do an outstanding job. They would have that rehab by probably fall.
Thank you. Councilmember St. Aid.
So you signed an interior, exterior, tear out, whatever it is, contract.
You know,
And
yes,
then, okay, fantastic. When's that work planned?
it's already happening.
It's happening now.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I just received a text message about some things that were found. Did I want them?
We think the culmination of that work will be when?
According to their agreement, they gave me a timeline of 2 to 3 weeks. However, I will tell you that I shared with them. I understand this is closed up house and we've had extreme temperatures.
Right.
I want their personal safety to be their priority. I don't want somebody in there collapsing because of the heat. So,
I understand that. Like I said, last week, there's urgency. So what I'm hearing from the director is, what we try to do is we try to be fair, but you also, everybody here has to understand that this has been red tag since 2017.
that's the past.
No. We don't avoid historical facts in this room.
I'm not trying to avoid it.
Your relationship with this may have started in the fall. We are almost 1 year, right? It hasn't lapsed essentially since that relationship has commenced. In this room, what we try to do as best as possible, and I said this last week, we're not arbitrary, right? We try to apply not only our ordinances, but also administrative policy with fidelity. And so the list of repairs, the estimate, the financial wherewithal, timelines that are palatable to the department. As a committee member, and I'm one of 3, I wanted to see that like ASAP, not 2 months down the line, we potentially have a buyer. So if you all need to start doing that work prior to somebody actually purchasing, great. If you're able to get somebody to fold very, very quickly that can do that work as a potential buyer, great. But we said this last week, I'm not going to be inclined to continue to kick this thing down the.
Oh, I get that. I really do.
I want it to be addressed and finished
Okay.
also. That is my priority. Again, once I became aware, I'm trying to be cognizant of the
Yep, I
needs
appreciate that.
and move forward. I want you to notice that within 72 hours of our last meeting was when I had sent the original emails that I sent to Mr. Van Fawcett. Pictures from last night that show the progress of the change in at least the exterior from what it was initially.
So what I'm going to do, based on what I think was maybe a recommendation, just in terms of procedure, this was tabled. Do I have to untable this or no?
No, it's still on the table. It's no.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is move. It's,
Just table again. I
It's-
mean, if that was your plan.
that's what I'm.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
so
tabled last
what I'm going to do is move that we table this another 2 weeks until our August 6th.
Until when?
August 6th.
August 6th
August 6th.
at 3:30
3:30 here.
in this room. Do I need to be at the city council meeting on the
No,
27th?
will not be on the 27th.
So August 6th.
And I do, Councilmember Hussein is right. We cannot ignore history, but I do also recognize the speed at which you've moved since you've come to us. And we really appreciate that, which is why I think this committee is willing to
Right.
push pause for another 2 weeks. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have several people who have expressed interest in purchasing. But I'm working with Tim, who has been through this kind of process before, which is why I reached out to him, knowing that he has a better understanding of the process than I do. This is all foreign language to me. I also recognize that neglected the neighborhood, and I apologize for that.
Appreciate that. Ms. Collins, Ms. Rumler, Mr. Rumler, excuse me, thank you for your time. All those in favor of tabling the resolution until August 6th, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, see you on August 6th.
Do I continue communicating with this Mr. Van
Yes,
Fossen?
Mr. Van Fossen. Yeah,
Should I copy Sherry on the emails when I send them?
Great.
Just to
Any
make sure.
updated pictures can be sent to you all. Okay, anything that helps.
I can get it to you guys.
I will stress that the important part is that you're making progress and understanding you got to get cleaned out first, but we're going to need demonstrable progress to keep doing this, to keep kicking it down the road. Got it? Thank you.
Good with that?
All right, next item is a general public safety update. Please, Mr. Floor is yours. I know, with the annual basis, the summer can be a little more of a hot season for us. more ways than one. The chief gave a great presentation at the Crime and Safety Committee for the West Side Neighborhood Association last Wednesday, speaking to some of the, excuse me. Got it? Thank you.
I see that.
Speaking to some of the proactive efforts and different steps they're taking to address public safety in our community this summer and onward. So I just wanted to open the floor to the team to talk about that a little bit, give this committee an update.
Thank you, sir. I'll just do a brief mid-year update. So for your information, our staffing currently stands at 196 sworn officers out of authorization for 218. We do have 19 people that are in our academy sponsorship and have been through the entire process. So they are registered for an August starting academy. So with any luck, all 19 would graduate and be successful in completing the academy in December, which would bring us to just 3 shy of just full authorized strength.
So that would be December?
That would be December. We also have an open application process that we actually have to start now for our January academy. And we know that between right now and January, we will most likely lose 2 people to retirements. And then in the next 6 months following that, we have 5 planned retirements. So our hope is to get roughly 10 people into that January academy, and we'll be on track to be fully staffed, even potentially front load some spots. Speaking of crime numbers right now, we are 6 months through the year. We currently are seeing a 6.2% increase in overall crime. But to put a positive spin on that, the decreases that we're seeing are in our violent crimes. Felonious assaults are down, homicides are neutral, and robberies are down. Where we're seeing our increases is from property crimes. Our calls for service, just to give you an extent of just how busy we are this year versus last year, we've taken roughly 350 more calls for service. I'd like to say we're pretty much on par where we were last year, but those decreases are in significant areas and where we're focusing at. We put in place a few of new staffing and just overall general police and crime reduction strategies. Number one is we've instituted a summer staffing program, which we're calling our Power Shift. We've taken 10 officers who completed our field training program, which means they've gone from being under supervision to solo patrol. And we've placed them into shifts, which allowed us to take 10 bodies and put them on a schedule where we know from data we're the busiest. That's 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., typically where we get the biggest backlog. We're now 30 days into that, or roughly 30 days. We started the 13th of June. And so I can tell you from the inside of the department, it's being received positively. Morale is increasing. There's less call backlog. And what that should equate to is a faster response. We're also seeing more proactive activity from officers with the free time. So I'm excited to see what that produces by the end of the month in terms of numbers. We also are using our grant we received from the COPS office for focused enforcement. What that's doing is putting roughly 4 officers extra on patrol Fridays and Saturday nights. And we're using that as problem solving. So the issues that we're having with the parks, it's this group that is now going to the parks and checking. So I'll say that with the caveat that there is no such thing as perfect policing. And so there are times when we are checking the park, we're moving people along only to have people return. And that was the case that we experienced in June. We've also added river patrols. So Monday through Friday, we have officers that are either on a bike, or if they're not trained to be on a bike, we have a golf cart or a side-by-side that they're operating on the river trail. This is primarily downtown because it operates between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. and they're going between Old Town and roughly the Impression 5 area. And it's due to complaints from people saying that while walking from the downtown area, that they're experiencing some inappropriate behavior. We've expanded that to include Saturdays and Sundays with River Patrol, and that stretches all the way from Hawk Island to Turner Dodge, in hopes that people are out there enjoying the full river walk. CATA, we've increased our staffing to include, or to complement CATA's I believe 3 full-time security guards. We've added 2 police officers specifically to CATA, mostly in the afternoon hours. And we've also increased our downtown patrols. So we do have a dedicated downtown CPO. That downtown CPO is asked for 1 to 2 days per week where we would put more CPOs with her so that she would have a better opportunity to take some enforcement action where she's been lacking a little bit in the ability to do things by herself. So I can tell you from a productivity standpoint, that has been effective. seen actions downtown, and I've heard nothing but positive things from the business owner in regards to her response to this and our response to this. July 4th staffing, I was very impressed with what we were able to do with our personnel. We had 120 people that worked within that 24-hour period. 80 were assigned to downtown and fireworks area itself, and 50 were assigned to road patrols. We do have a request out for 6 new mobile camera units. The funding has been approved for that. We're simply looking for the correct vendor and the lead time to get those actually developed, and we'll get those deployed. And just another special area, we are giving special attention to Old Town. They've got the new dam that's been revitalized. They've had events every single weekend. We have a CPO that works there now, and again, I've heard nothing but positive comments from the business and the residents over there, but we're also making sure that for events like Pride, Scrap Fest, and this weekend, the Dam Jam, that we have a visible presence.
Member Seen, any questions for the chief?
Yeah, just because you talked about staffing, and we're looking at retirements and things of that nature. And of course, those are much easier to predict. I am curious about, Chief Backus, how many officers we've lost, maybe over the last year, maybe the last 2 years, maybe the last 3 years, to other departments. And if you could talk to us a little bit about why we're losing officers.
We have lost a number of them, and if I was just to ballpark right now, I'd say we've lost 5 to 6 people to other departments.
Over the last year?
Over the last year, yep. And I'm just thinking of faces right now, so I can't tell you if I've got the exact number. So it's probably the most discouraging one. We've lost some officers to East Lansing. And one of the differences between us and East Lansing is they do not require their officers to pay into their pension. We currently have a 10% contribution, but please understand that that comes with a much lower rate for their multiplier, yep, and a much longer time. So for example, to get to the rate that we currently give our officers for a regular career will take them 10 years longer. So the payoff is more immediate, but long-term, I don't believe that they have a better benefit than us. They also don't pay into their healthcare. When these folks left, we paid into our healthcare. We currently do not, just based on the hard cap and what the allowable amounts are. East Lansing opted out of that from the very beginning. And I think if you read any financial information about East Lansing, they're having some hardships with maintaining that. I've brought that up multiple times, including their most recent financial health report. Outside of that, and I would say that those are folks that are looking for immediate payoff for funds. Outside of that, the people that I see leaving, we have people that have left to go to another state. Their wife got transferred. They're in the medical profession. We have another person that moved downstate to follow their, at the time, girlfriend. And then we have other people that have left for federal jobs. I think we're very competitive locally. I think East Lansing has a different setup than us that offers, again, immediate benefit, but long-term, and we tell this to everyone, long-term, I think we are still the better strategy for people.
And when we look at cities maybe similarly, situated as ours, demographics similar, what's kind of in terms of retention? Is there a department somewhere in the state of Michigan that you look to in terms of pay, in terms of benefits, in terms of, and we try to be comparable with that particular department? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that if you look at somebody who's similar in size, you have Ann Arbor. Well, they have a totally different average income and house value. So take them out of it. I tend to look at Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. They have a very similar median income. They have a very similar housing value for their markets. And I look at what they do for the police officers. So one thing that Grand Rapids has done is they restructured their payment schedule where you are starting people out with the biggest benefit on the front ends of their years, year 1, 2, and 3. And so what we see is, well, people will leave us because they are getting significant increases to go there. But once they go there, their increases drastically drop, but they're still high enough where it's hard to get them to come over to you. So it's very hard to get someone to lateral from a place like Grand Rapids to us. Kalamazoo is very comparable. They have the same issues. Grand Rapids, in my opinion, has been the #1 attractor for police jobs right now. And while I wouldn't refer to them as gypsies in a bad way, people that are simply looking for the highest paid department that has a urban setting, or they're going to Grand Rapids.
Okay. All right. You talked about the power shift going in. Just for the record, how many CPO positions do we have funded And how many of those are filled?
Currently have 12. So I'm sorry, we currently have 12 funded. We only have 3 in that position right now. And the reason we only have 3 is because we've taken the personnel who would be in the CPO and we placed them in patrol function for the summer. And we've done that because when call loading, we placed them in patrol function for the summer. And we've done that because when call load increases in the summer, we want to see how that impacts our ability to serve the public because we also have vacation time in the summer that lowers our staffing. So we just want to see if we get more bang for our buck with putting people on patrol versus that CPO position. However, in October, we plan on ending this and we'll be pushing those people into special assignments. It's the biggest attraction for LPD is being able to do things other than patrol. So CPO is a special assignment. That's what we'll end up putting people. So right now we're evaluating which CPO areas we should be placing people in as a priority. We're even looking at the program and saying, is there something we can do to put more CPOs around the city?
Is it not true that everyone's favorite special assignment is city council Mondays?
Sometimes we even get 2 people there.
Right. Just a couple of.
Sometimes we even get 2 people there.
Right. Just a couple others. In terms of our kind of neighborhood watch, business watch officer, is that position filled?
Yes, it is. Currently, it just changed over July 10th.
It was Rudd, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Officer Rudd held that position for 3 years. We just filled that with Bridget Foyson.
Okay.
And so again, this is her first week. So she spent almost a month with Officer Rudd learning the ropes.
Okay.
And she's off to the races.
Awesome. That's exciting. I have a couple quick questions just because we have them, if that's okay. So there was just before I walked in here, Channel 6 dropped a story with regard to gang activity. And it really was about, I just kind of gave it a quick glance. It talked about that we have historically said we don't have a gang issue, but now, there might be some people within the department that are even on sworn testimony saying we do in fact have a gang issue. I guess my question is, number one, what's that all about? Number two, have we internally, or maybe it's criminologists, maybe it's federal law enforcement agencies, have we changed the definition of gangs, or do we actually today have gangs with organizational permanence in the city of Lansing, ties to national syndicates, those types of things?
Okay.
Where are we at?
Yes, we had this conversation in Lansing 360 yesterday.
Okay.
So that we could explain the idea. Lansing does not have traditional gangs. Traditional gangs would be things like Crips, Bloods, Disciples, Black P-Stones. We do not see those. What we have is what academics call hybrid gangs. Hybrid gangs, you could almost say they are affiliated groups. They start as friends. They start from schools and neighborhoods. You may have a group of 5 people. You may have a group of 10 people. And you'll have one person within that group that's conducting violence.
Right.
And when people are around that group, they associate you together. And the group that it's actually orchestrated against now sees you as their rival. It's complicated, but it's simple because we see it so often. It's the idea that you could say affiliated group or group affiliated. You could say that it's violent. Trying to think some of the other words. But the official term is hybrid gangs. There's no structure to it, meaning there's no identified leader. There's typically no underlying motivating crimes other than potential violence. And that violence is seen as retaliatory, and it's seen as, for lack of a better term, there's just no financial gain out of it. It's more reputation. It's just ego. And so when we gave this, then this story came out, the actual transcripts that were given to us have all that information on it. This is a hybrid gang situation and how these gangs started. And what we have said is Lansing does not have traditional gangs. We have said, however, that we have hybrid gangs, we have affiliated groups. Advanced Peace said that too.
Well, so I'm just trying to figure out, is there a distinction between what we have always experienced in Lansing? I've lived in Lansing 44 years, right, my entire life. And we have always had, I guess, what we're now calling hybrid gangs. Groups of, delinquent youth, if you will, 10, 15, 20 people. Sometimes they're Black-based. A lot of times there's no organizational structure. Typically maybe there's a founder, if you will, or a ringleader. Once they're gone, the group dissolves. And so I'm trying to figure out, I guess when I was reading, I was trying to figure out, is that what we're still dealing with? And yes, they might be more violent because of the ubiquitous nature of guns now, right? It wasn't necessarily the case 30 years ago. Or have we actually evolved into seeing some of these groups that other cities from across the country are dealing with that do have the organizational structure, that do have multi-generational, criminal activity, that type of thing. And I think that was the case, but I wanted to make sure that we had that conversation here in the terms, because at the end of the day, even if they don't have that organizational structure or permanence, um, there, there is still an issue. And so what are we doing to address in like within the department?
One of the big things is focus enforcement. So again, if we take a group of 10 people is not the problem. It's one person that's orchestrated and usually is carrying out a lot of this violence. It's usually one person in there who you would call like an enforcer of the group.
Yeah.
Who is then motivating another group to target. And then their target isn't just the one enforcer, their target is the 10 people that are associated to it.
Right.
So what we do is we narrow down and say, who is really causing the problems between these two groups? Well, it's the one enforcer, and on the other side, it's the other enforcer. And they typically have a violent crime background too. We usually know who they are. And so our efforts go to making contact with that person. Sometimes they're carrying a gun, but also looking at what their current status is in our system. So it's also not uncommon for them to have criminal complaints just because of their behavior. It just doesn't stop, because it's not just every time that they commit one of those crimes and someone chooses to call, they're typically acting in that manner every single day. So that's why we have to increase our frequency of contacts with that person. We also share that information with Advanced Peace and anyone else who's doing intervention work to say, this is who on paper, who was reported to us through actual verified crimes. This is who is involved in violent behavior. The hope is Advanced Peace is targeting those people for their programming, but at the same time, we're going on parallel paths. We expect Advanced Peace to tell them, we have a program for you and you need to stop your behavior. Police are there in case you don't.
Appreciate that.
I sat through 2 hours of the chief's update last week, so I don't have questions.
Can I ask just one more thing?
Well,
That's
you were
not,
gonna,
that's not totally related in terms of the violence aspect, but we're getting a ton of questions since we have them here, and this is public safety. We're getting a ton of questions. We're getting a ton of emails and calls regarding flock cameras. My understanding,
Yeah.
and if I recall, we approved a grant back in 2023, right? And then there was, I remember getting a sole source for flock or whatever it was. And I think we've expanded from to whatever we have today. So first, how many flock cameras do we have? I think that.
We have 5 locations. So understand it usually takes 4 cameras to cover one location.
Okay.
So Holmes and MLK, one location, 4 cameras covering each direction. MLK and St. Joe, 4 cameras because you've got the divided road there. So you've got MLK, St. Joe, and Malcolm X.
5 locations.
Yep. But I consider that one intersection there.
These are all positioned in public right of ways. Do we have any on commercial properties? Do we? No, okay.
We don't put any on commercial
Okay.
property.
Do these, and I guess we're getting all kinds of folks are saying, hey, listen, your flag cameras have, as an example, facial recognition capability. No.
So just to background on flock, it is a picture. It's a snapshot of a plate. It's a snapshot of a vehicle. The intelligence in it identifies the letters and numbers so I can search them. But they are not connected to any sensitive information. The police department is the only people that can take a picture and do something with it.
Right.
It doesn't know that it's Rob Banks' car. It
Right.
knows that it's Rob Banks' blue car. Or I'm sorry, it knows it's a blue car. And then the police can find out that blue car is Rob Banks.
And who has access to the, do we share the data with anybody outside of?
Our policy says we have to have an MOU. We don't share information. However, if people call us, let's just say Kalamazoo calls us and says, do you have this vehicle in your city? We can say, no, we don't have this vehicle. But we do get those requests. And I'll tell you that the benefit of it is we had one of our shooting suspects that was caught in Kalamazoo because we called them and says, yeah, it's here right now. I was given a text message about potential human trafficking in the city of Lansing, and it came in as an anonymous complaint. We used our cameras to determine that this car from Indiana was indeed in Lansing. It had been in Lansing multiple times. We shared that with Indiana to say this vehicle was here at this time, and they said this vehicle's everywhere. This vehicle's in a lot of cities. Can't tell you the advantages of using flock. And that's why we're doing a news story, if not next week, the week after, to start talking about how we're using it, what safeguards we have in place. Out of our entire agencies, we have 56 people that have been trained and are allowed access to it. Every time they log into that system, me included, there's an audit log that says I'm here and I did this.
I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, so the flock cameras that are in the city of Lansing at 5 locations are still cameras designed to capture license plate data.
They captured license plates. So the data is, the data is the tricky part because there's no information other than a photo.
they have the ability, I could be wrong, but again, we're getting a lot of information. Don't they have the ability to, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but to almost create like a physical, like a fingerprint of a car, almost like front end damage, make
Yes.
model.
Yeah,
Okay. I thought so.
So the intelligence of those cameras can notice very specific nuances and say, I've got a sticker that says Michigan State on my back window.
Right.
We're using that. We use that to say when people call us and they say the front fender was red, but the rest of the car was silver, we put that in there. I'll tell you that in the past week, the last time someone asked me about this, and I told them the last week, we had a carjacking where when it went out by Meyer, we were able to recover it on the north end within an hour with the 2 suspects in it. And then we had, forgive me, there was one other serious event that we had that we used it on. But it's being used weekly. And the cases that it's attached to, and I would even say the most violent ones we've had in the 2 weeks that have gotten a lot of attention. Several of our leads are solely because we have Flock.
And I appreciate something that you said earlier. So when you think about the concerns that we're fielding and the belief that people have in terms of capability, in terms of sharing of data, all of these things, I completely understand the concern. So I think with this information, I appreciate that you guys are trying to be intentional, like with regard to an educational campaign of sorts, because I think actual capabilities needs to be understood, not misunderstood. What guardrails, what policies you have in place in terms of making sure we're guarding against misuse, those types of things. And I think, and the actual way that they're being deployed and used, and some of the success you guys are finding. So I think if people get that information, I think that'll assuage a number of concerns. So I appreciate that.
I agree with Councilmember Hussein. I also think it's very interesting that for every email I get about Flock cameras, I get another email or contact about adding cameras to another part of the city. So for the record there. Well, Chief, as always, I want to thank you for your thoroughness, your preparedness, and for your willingness to be here. Anything else, Councilmember Hussein?
No, thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it.
We'll be back on August 6th at 4:08. We are adjourned.